Namaskar to all the listeners. I am so delighted that we are talking here today about innovation, about startups, about indeed the future of technology and the role of young people and innovation in Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I'm also very happy that Mr. Ravi Kumar Dasu and Mr. Um, Ankur Sharma have put together this very compelling program. Indeed, an idea whose time has come, and I'm very happy to share with you in the next 15 minutes some of my thoughts related to the state of innovation in the country, the design and collaborative elements in technology, startups and early innovators' contribution to the fast evolving landscape of innovation, and then developing a sense of purpose and pride in what we do in creating new opportunities. So that is the basic elements that we would build upon. The time is short, so I would go right to the business about what is about innovation that has really caught on and why it has caught on. Look, we have been focused in India a lot on inventions and discovery and creating new knowledge, but it's fairly clear that that's only part of the economic social system. So, in other words, we also have to have equally compelling knowledge consumption systems is when the knowledge creation and knowledge consumption are working together, is when you have the opportunities which are created. So we must all understand very clearly what is meant by invention and innovation, and then we'll jump right into innovation aspect of it. So invention, I would put it very simply, maybe even crudely, invention and discovery, the input is money and human resources and infrastructure, and it produces knowledge as the output. So that's the invention ecosystem. And India has very deep strengths in creating knowledge. So, what we need actually is to create knowledge which is appropriate, which has a direction, which is relevant for innovation. I want to quickly tell my viewers something which is not very widely known is that India is number three in the number of science and engineering publications that are created right after China and US. What that means is that we got deep strengths in creating new knowledge. And I would repeat again that this knowledge has to be relevant, it must have an early direction, it must have global quality, and those are the elements that would make use of the knowledge and turn it into new opportunities. These new opportunities are created by innovation. They are not created simply by invention. So invention, of course, it kind of stops at prototyping level. So starting from your education to going through R&D, then going through design, going through prototyping, and trying to connect all of this to other interfaces like startups and industry and society at large. Now, innovation is in fact opposite of invention because in innovation, we take knowledge as the input and the output are the new socio-economic opportunities, including money. So essentially, the sustainability of knowledge in any society requires that we have a good balance between invention and innovation. So basically, that these two have to work together in order for us to be sufficient. Right. So I think that's fairly easy thing to understand. Now, what's happening about innovations? Just to tell you, to give you an example, the Department of Science and Technology has created more technology incubators and startup support in the last 5 years as compared to the previous 50 years. You see, so this is because innovation is an idea whose time has come. So we could ramp up the funding for innovation for startups. There are now about 150 incubators which are supported by Department of Science and Technology, and a third party audit of the outcomes and output of those incubators and startups has shown us that in the last 3 years, 70,000 new jobs are created and 27,000 crores of wealth has been created because of these startups. And it's only picking up now. So there may be about 4,000 tech startups in these incubators. But our goal, our objective in a country of 1.3 billion people is to increase it by 10x in the next 5 years. And our goal should be to have 100x enhancement in these numbers and the outcomes in the next 20 years. So now there are a lot of things which are happening from the government in order to encourage, in order to empower our tech entrepreneurs and our tech innovations and startups. uh, Now, the best way to understand that is that in startups, I see technology is one aspect of it, no doubt. The ideas is one aspect of it, but this is a whole chain. So innovation is not a single event. Innovation is a chain. I already talked about the fact that innovation is part of a circle. So invention to innovation, but it's also part of a chain. So that chain starts from R&D, which is the back end of innovation. So it pulls knowledge and then convert it into through design, through prototyping, through getting seed funding, by connecting to the industry and market and customers, and connecting to the government when government is a buyer or when its policies impact what we do. So this is the end-to-end connection, which requires scouting, training, mentoring, prototyping, design, and then most important, to have an understanding of the consumer, of the customer, of the market. And this is where this point is so important, because I see so many compelling ideas. One sees so many startups that start with the best of ideas. Only problem is that they have not found a very clear direction from the beginning about what is the market, what kind of demands are there, what kind of needs are there, what kind of priorities are there. So if we have an idea about all of this, which means to have a robust business model, all the way to the exit, that is the exit strategy. That's very critical. Now, one aspect of that exit strategy, in fact, there are two very compelling aspects. The first one is that because in a startup is the sparkle of ideas that matters. So we can do good design. Design plays a very important role in this. Right kind of design, not just tech design, but also aesthetic design, the ease of using the product, and the compatibility of product with other needs, whole lot of those things. But most important is that the startup is driven by ideas, right? Is driven by us young people who are energetic, who are full of ideas, who got creative juices flowing. But once you come to the end of that, right, then actually it shifts in the marketplace. What that means is that while the journey, a typical journey of a startup, is related to what I may call disruptive ideas, even new ideas, and translating them into product and technology, which is what in Hindi I call panga. Panga is disruptive way of doing things. But as you come to the end of that phase, then it goes to dhanda, or business aspect of it. It is often the incompatibility between the business aspects and the people who drive it, and the people, some of them may be geeks, as they are called, or whatever, techies. So incompatibility between the sparkle of ideas and stability of ideas going in the market, and often that conflict of the approach and the vision may actually lead to failure of a startup. Now, I've seen so many examples of this, that people want to wish to have complete control, and they want to retain complete control. Now, it's not good to be a control freak. in order to broad base, in order to enlarge, in order to go to market, we actually need to work with people who are not like us, okay, who may be different kind of people who have understanding of capital and of markets. Second aspect is, in order to have an early direction, is good for startups and industry to work together. What I mean by industry is that the established needs and market, etc., are well captured by this partner. So essentially, if one were to provide an early direction to the ideas, then it's more likely that this would go seamlessly into market. And in fact, we started a program of that kind with CII and FICCI, that their members ought to connect with the startups. So far, 100 startups have been so connected. Other words, you project your demand. Okay, you say, look, this is the little component, this is the little process, this is the little thing that I need. I'm not saying that one outsources the entire big picture. But startups have the advantage that they are nimble, they are fast, they are driven by people who have a goal to meet in finite time with timelines and so on. So it is possible to outsource many of the components that go into industry. They may not have the time, they may not have the human resources of appropriate nature, they may not have the infrastructure and so on. So it always makes sense for industry to work together with the startups. And I appeal to all the startups, entrepreneurs, and industry here to explore these possibilities. Department of Science and Technology would be very happy to be a matchmaker in this process. So if you send us what your requirements are, if you cannot find a partner, we will find one for you. We would, in fact, even be happy to do seed funding for that. So we got programs in which if industry brings in X amount of money or resources and brings a problem to be solved, then we would match that resources, right? So you may wish to solve this problem in academia or in R&D labs or with startups. It doesn't really matter. The whole point is to work with a strong connect. Major failure of our science and technology is that A, we stop with invention and knowledge creation, and second, that happens because we are not connecting with the wide world outside there. This wide world is a substantial amount of infrastructure, which is, for example, created by the government. So, to give you an example, let's look at some of the future technologies which are evolving very fast. These are cyber physical systems, basically a convergence of communication, computing, decision making through artificial intelligence, perception like sensors, and autonomous action like actuators. So, future is all about convergence of all of these technologies in which synthesis of knowledge and design are the very essential ingredients, and they require that we work together, that we work together in a seamless way, all the way from R&D to industry to market and the government. So this is often called a triple helix: the government, the industry, and academia and R&D, and we can bring to it also startups, because I think startups are becoming a very essential part between the knowledge generation and knowledge consumption. It is a little bit like, the way to explain it is a little bit like a surfactant. When oil and water don't mix, but you put a little bit of soap in there, then the oil and water become compatible. Other words, that startups ought to think of themselves as entities that connect with the knowledge creation, but they also connect with knowledge consumption at the other end. Now, so we said like design plays a very important role, and now the startups and design would start playing even greater role more and more because we are dealing with overarching challenges of technology. There is a crisis. The future is coming at us at faster and faster rate. look at cyber physical systems, artificial intelligence, machine learning, look at Industry 4.0, in which we need to create models, we need to create simulations, we need to create diagnostics, we need to create avatars. So all of this stuff that we were doing physically, not very efficiently, could in fact be done much more efficiently, with much more muscle, with design, with simulation, and so on. So implementing Industry 4.0 for the benefit of Society 5.0. We don't have time to go into all these concepts, but needless to say that look, there are lots of new opportunities, both in terms of policy and in terms of funding, which is available for startups. So there is funding at every step of the way, for training people, for having prototyping grants even before incubation happens, fellowships so that you are not sinking, at least there is something to eat and survive on until there is success. At the same time, seed funding up to 1 crore for the startup. Now, of course, 1 crore may not look very big all the time, but don't forget, this 1 crore of free government grant actually empowers us to raise much more money from venture capitalists, from the market, from the industry, and so on. We have found that every rupee of grant by the government brings in 11.5 rupees of external cash flow. So these are the times that we live in. The times have never been better for entrepreneurship, for a startup to go forward with positivity and have risk-taking ability. So that do a little bit of panga, do a little bit of dhanda, do a little bit of jugaad, and all of that, we can move forward. Now, other thing that I just want to leave our listeners with is that look, in the new way of doing things in government, we have a new mission coming up, which is in quantum technologies worth 8,000 crores. The mission on cyber physical systems is worth 3,600 crores. The mission on supercomputing is worth 4,500 crores. There are other missions which are coming in electric mobility, for example, clean tech, and so on. All of these missions are very unique. In other words, their architecture and their processes and their structures allow equal participation of startups, industry, academia, government, and R&D labs. Other words, all the infrastructure and human resources which are created by these missions are actually available for participation to all of the other entities. So I would be very happy if any of you got any queries about it, to be able to address them. Um, Basically, we have to work on a seamless system, the seamless knowledge system, basically, in which R&D is not separated from incubation, incubation is not separated from industry requirements, industry requirements are not separated from the buyer's requirements, and these buyer, when it is government, the policies of procurement matter a lot. And as many of you know, that there have been new policies for procurement from startups. For example, the requirements of previous turnover or previous experience, etc., can be totally waived off. And in fact, increasingly, more and more tenders which are coming encourage Atmanirbharta. Now, Atmanirbharta does not mean only that we produce every single screw and bolt over here. It's not only about manufacturing. There is Atmanirbharta in design, there is Atmanirbharta in innovation, in R&D, and in fact, in the entire culture. So since I'm running out of time, I will just leave you one final message. And the final message is the overarching importance of culture in innovation in startups and indeed in Atmanirbharta. So when we talk about Atmanirbharta, the two other words or three other words that pop into my mind spontaneously, the first one is Atmavishwas. Other words, we have to fully empower people around us and give them the confidence that they can do it and they will do it. Make no mistakes about it, we don't lack intelligence, but oftentimes people are looking to this great XYZ university somewhere else They are looking at some other think tank. They are thinking about, well, they are looking at the color of the skin and all of that, right? So this is all very deep aspect of the culture that we have to fully address, which means we know that we don't lack knowledge, we don't lack intelligence. What we lack is this confidence that we are doing it, we will do it, and we would do it successfully. The second aspect related to Atmanirbharta is about Atma Samman. Look, anybody who doesn't respect himself cannot respect others. And this is about positivity and energy in our society and in our innovation and startup ecosystem. And the third aspect is Atma Chintan, shifting from Atma Chinta, shifting from Chinta to Chintan, which is to take stock of who we are, where we are, what is the path forward in a very clear terms, and then go about doing it. And in fact, COVID-19 time has shown us totally all the stuff that I've talked about. So, in my conclusion, I would say 4 months ago, we have been importing everything, whether it is, whether it's about PPEs, about even N95 masks, ventilators, diagnostics, what have you, knowledge, right? Today, because of the shared vision and shared purpose between R&D, government, and industry and startups. We in fact funded more than 100 startups in just very short period of time in 3 months to produce new COVID-19 related products and technologies, and they are all in market now. So how did that happen? Right, in the peace times before COVID-19, that would have taken several years, and people were still not doing it. So it's not because we could not do it, it's because we were not confident. We did not have industry, government, and R&D working together. So this is the most compelling lesson that I've learned, that I want to leave with you, and make all efforts so that people work together, collaborate, collaborate, collaborate is really the mantra to go forward in making things that work and taking them to the market. I want to wish everybody who joined us, entrepreneurs, techies, to wannabe entrepreneurs, wannabe startups, all of you, that look, the times have never been better for innovation and startups as they are today. So take a plunge, have no hesitation, go with the mantra of Atma Vishwas, Atma Samman, and Atma Chintan. And I have no doubt at all that the future would be a huge success for you, for our society, for our nation. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.